Welcome back everyone to another video on life and spirituality. In today's video, we will explore some bits and pieces of the Dhammapada by Eknath Easwaran, subtitled The Sayings of the Buddha. I hope I'm pronouncing all these names right. Probably not. The author, who is a prominent historian and ancient Indian spirituality translator, affirms that if everything about Buddhism was lost except for the teaching of the Buddha within this one sutra, this one book called the Dhammapada, then it would be enough to grasp all of the concepts and essence of Buddhism. I didn't want to make a video on Buddhism per se, and I myself am not a Buddhist. If you know me, then you know that I like to be considered as a secular spiritual seeker. The selection I have made for you today is more philosophic than religious, like all the great books that we have seen together on this channel, from the Roman Stoics to the ancient Chinese wisdom and Confucius and so on. It blows my mind to see that it all is very much useful and valid today. I don't care much about ancient wisdom, I care about wisdom, and I'm fascinated that some truths are still so accurate to this day. So as always, let's start with a little bit of context here, and then we will start on the Buddha's 5 tips for a good life. So if you're excited as I am, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already, and let's get started. So first of all, when was the Buddha around and who was he? Well, you will find it funny to know that he was around the same time as our friend Confucius from the last video. That's about 600 years before Christ, so approximately 2,500 years ago to 2,600 years ago, something like this. He was born as Siddhartha Gautama, the son of royal family in what is now Nepal. He decided to walk away from his wealth and different riches and all the comfort that was entitled to him at the age of approximately 30 in order for him to start his spiritual journey of fulfillment through a path of contemplation and asceticism before he was able to achieve enlightenment, or so it was said, while sitting under the Bodhi tree. And this is how he became known as the Buddha. The main teachings of the Buddha and the core of Buddhism are the Four Noble Truths. Hundreds of millions of people now practice what is called Buddhism across the world, and has gained huge popularity in the Western world too, especially since the 1960s. The word Buddha is Sanskrit and means to wake up. This is why we understand the Buddha to be the one who is awake and truly alive and in the present, moment to moment to moment. Our first quote for the day is about the Dhammapada, just to finish off on the context, and then we will jump to the Buddha's 5 tips for a good life. So I quote, "The Buddha did not leave a static structure of his belief that we can affirm and be done with. His teaching is an ongoing path, a way of perfect, which anyone can follow to the highest good. The Dhammapada is a map for this journey. These verses can be read and appreciated simply as wise philosophy. As such, they are part of the great literature of the world. But for those who follow it to the end, the Dhammapada is a sure guide to nothing less than the highest goal life can offer, self-realization." So, let's jump to tip number 1, and I quote, "Go beyond both pleasure and pain." End of quote. The Buddha's 4 Noble Truths are really the basis for all of his teaching. They are: number 1, life is full of suffering. Number 2, the cause of suffering is selfish desire. Number 3, suffering can be relieved. And finally, number 4, the relief of suffering can be achieved by following the Eightfold Path. Buddha knew that it is a fact of life that we all will at some point of our lives, and quite often at that, suffer. Suffering is a big generic word that can mean so many things. You can suffer when you realize you're getting old. You can suffer when you're sick. You can suffer when you're feeling lonely. You can suffer when people you love around you die. You will suffer when you lose some of your possessions, or when your heart is shattered to bits in a million pieces by a breakup or a divorce. But the Buddha teaches us that it is not the fact that all these things will happen that make us suffer. What makes us suffer is when we try to fight against those facts of life. Death is a part of life, and if you fight against it, resist believing in nature itself, then you will suffer. We cling to our sense of how things should be, how we would like things to be, how we would like nature to operate. But that is simply not possible. This is not the way of the world. It is the attachment to expectations that present a problem. Only by dealing with the fact that life is unpredictable and will often bring us pain and disappointment can we become non-attached, separated, and fully aware in order to avoid the suffering that plagues most of us. It is a really hard concept to live by, I know, but I really love this concept. It's hard for me to live by it, of course, but the concept in itself is remarkable. It reminds me, of course, of Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, founder of the Stoic philosophy, when he reminded himself that bad things might happen to him today and preparing for those things and so on. I talk about these in 2 other videos. I will link them below and in the cards above my head, so check them out. Tip number 2, follow the 8-fold paths. These are right views, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. According to Buddhism, the key to ending suffering and achieving nirvana is to follow this 8-fold paths. What is nirvana? Not only a cool band. The literal Sanskrit root of the word nirvana means extinction. It represents the highest state of consciousness in which all selfish desires and attachments are no longer present. The point beyond nirvana is the idea of bodhisattva, one who reaches his or her own enlightenment and chooses to return to the world in service to all beings, committed to resting when all beings are happy and free. This is pretty cool stuff. Tip number 3, I quote, "More than those who hate you, more than all your enemies, an undisciplined mind does greater harm." This is so true. An undisciplined, uncontrolled mind can create such suffering and such chaos. This is why I've made such a commitment to bringing you free guided meditations on this channel to help you control your thoughts, take control of your mind and spirit and soul, take control of your life. After this video, I would really love for you to try one of my meditations and let me know what you think. The other day, I was listening to an old Tony Robbins tape. He's a motivator, a personal development guru, if you will. He doesn't like this word guru, and I don't either, but for lack of a better word. And he was saying something along the lines of the quality of our lives are determined by the quality of our self-communication. I paraphrase, and maybe this is not the right quote, but he said something along those lines. So the way you talk to yourself, the way you learn to control your mind, will literally shape the person you're meant to be and your actions and outcomes. Training your mind is an incredible challenge. It requires consistency and commitment. A few ways to do so are meditation, exercise, proper and clean nutrition, supplementation even, and journaling. We talk about all these things on the channel, so browse around and subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. There are no more important one of those, but meditation is something that I appreciate a lot. And as I always say, meditation is a practice. You practice physical exercise or a practice. You practice sports. You say, I practice this sport. You practice a certain diet and nutritional plan. Practice, practice, practice. This is the key word, practice. You will get better over time. Whether or not you will ever master it is highly debatable. But you practice it and you get better from it and you get all the benefits from those things. A little quote from the book here. If you forget the joy of life and get caught in the pleasures of the world, you will come to envy those who put meditation first. Tip number 4, don't just look good, smell good. I know this is a weird one, but after the following quotes, you'll know what I mean. I quote, "Like a lovely flower full of color but lacking in fragrance, all the words of those who do not practice what they teach." Are you this kind of flower that looks beautiful, but when you approach it, it just doesn't have any flavor, any smell at all? Are you all looks but no scent? Where is the substance in the flower that has no scent? We're all like this sometimes. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Just realize it and catch yourself. So let us make a commitment together, you and me, right now, to as much as possible walk the walk and not just be all talk. Let's all smell a little bit better every single day. Another quote from the Buddha on that subject, he says, Dharma is not upheld by talking about it, Dharma is upheld by living in harmony with it. We talked about the Dharma in details when we made this video on the Bhagavad Gita, so if you're interested in this, I will link the video in the card above my head as well as in the video description below. The concept of Dharma is something very important. Last but not least, tip number 5. If you walk alone, walk alone. I quote from the Buddha, avoid the company of the immature if you want joy. If you're a big Liverpool football fan and you're like, we will never walk alone, you might not like this. But yeah, in French there's a saying that single people love. It's better to be alone than to be badly accompanied. I'm translating, I'm not sure this is right, but you get the concept. And it's really, really true. I prefer no company than bad company. The Buddha says, and I quote, if you find no one to support you in the spiritual path, walk alone. There's no companionship with the immature. Don't hang out with people that don't lift you up, or even worse, that drag you down. I hope that by following this channel and listening to all these personal development talks and by doing all these meditations together, you will learn how to take control of your life and also love yourself so much more than that it will never be a problem for you just to hang out with yourself. In fact, I have an exercise for you. Get out of your house right now, alone, and just treat yourself to something nice. Maybe to a nice meal, or to a nice movie, or to something nice, and just hang out by yourself. Turn off your phone, put it in your pocket, put it in the bottom of your bag, and just spend some time alone. Get inside a restaurant, get a table for one. Don't be ashamed about it. Get a table for one. I know it's kind of hard, but let's get out of this comfort zone and enjoy a nice meal in your own company. Okay, let's finish today's video with a quote from Seneca. Of course, you guys know I cannot make a single video without quoting at least one of the Stoics. Actually, this is the second Stoic quote on this video. He says, and I quote, retire into yourself as much as possible. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom are capable of improving. The process is a mutual one. People learn as they teach. End of quote. I love this quote. Seneca, Stoic philosopher over 2,000 years ago. Everything he said is still true today. Okay, folks, so you've got it. The 5 tips. 5 tips from the Buddha himself to live a good life. Let's just recap and then we can finish off. Tip number 1 was, and I quote, go beyond both pleasure and pain. Tip number 2, follow the 8-fold paths. Do you guys remember what these were? If not, I'm going to tell you again, so write them down. These were right views, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and number 8, right concentration. Tip number 3 was, and I quote, more than those who hate you, more than all your enemies, an undisciplined mind does greater harm. Tip number 4 was, and I quote, don't just look good, smell good. That's my quote. But you know, like live with some substance. Don't be a flower that's just very colorful and that looks good. Be a flower that also has a beautiful scent inside. And finally, number 5, if you need to walk alone, walk alone. I quote the Buddha again, avoid the company of the immature if you want joy. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I sure have. Preparing for this video, I've learned a lot and it was very cool. So try to not just watch this video, try to write them down. Try to imagine how you can include these 5 tips into your own lives. And let me know in the comments below what was your favorite one, what was your favorite tip from the Buddha that we saw today. Okay, so if you want more videos such as this one, we do a whole bunch of personal development videos, spirituality, personal development videos. We also do all these guided meditations. So if you've not done so already, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel and press this little notification bell. Normally we publish videos every Wednesday and Sunday, but it does happen that I publish a little bit more from time to time. If you've not done so already, please like this video. This is not just for my personal ego, it's for the YouTube algorithm, so that he knows that people like this video and that other people can discover it and get all the benefits from them. So before you go, check out this meditation here. It will help you transcend. This is a video that I've made with a sound that you will follow that will really help you. And try out this video also. It talks about the Dharma and a lot of things that we've actually talked about in this video. It's on the Bhagavad Gita. It's a really cool video on ancient Indian spirituality. So check it out also, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.